How you doing there? Welcome back to Babylon Talmud. Today we're studying Daf Ches, I think. Yeah, Daf Ches of Masechta BavaBasra, friends. With Daf Ches, we begin a few days of Agadita. It's pretty cool. It's pretty interesting stuff. Remember Bav Mitzvah? Remember where we were in Bav Mitzvah? We were like, our heads were spinning with Shnaim Orchs and Metalis. Above Mitzvah, we didn't really get a few days of Agadita, I think, until like Daf Pei Daled, until like 3 months in. Hashem. BavaBasra seems to be like a combination of like Eruvin and the first parak, at least of BavaBasra, seems to be like a combination of Eruvin and Agadita. It's an interesting combination. So today we're going to get started on some Agadita. We're going to have a few days now of Agadita until the Mishnah on Daf Yud Aleph. So it's a nice kind of change of things. Alright. We're going to start on Daf Zayin Amud Beis at the 2 dots, about 5-6 lines into the wide lines on Daf Zayin Amud Beis. Kofin also livnos lo'ir v'chule. So a fellow who lives in a city, so he has to contribute to like the walls and the protection of the city. Now, Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel had said not all cities, have these requirements to build a wall. Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel Omer says, Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel, lo kol ayorus ru'uyis l'choma. Not all cities meet the criteria, I guess, to require a wall for protection. Rather, a city that is close to the border, a border city, requires a wall, right? As it's crazy how real things have become this year since October 7th. We're going to talk about Pidyon Shvuyim also on this stuff, but we see what's going on in the north of Eretz Yisrael, and we see what's going on in the south of Eretz Yisrael. The people on the borders really, they're the ones who get hit first, and so we're saying, so it's the Ira Smucha L'Sfar, the cities that are close to the borders, so Ru'ui L'Choma, they require protection. This is literally just mamish what's going on in Eretz Yisrael right now, right? There's like, different, depending on how close you are to like, the action, you get different things. And there's like different realities. All right. V'shein smucha l'sfar, and if you're not close to the borders, so eina ru'uya l'choma. So then you do not. Almost sounds like qualify almost for like a wall. You might see now, right? Like certain towns qualify for like government assistance, and certain towns don't qualify. It almost sounds like it's like a similar thing over here, right? Like meaning certain cities, according to Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel, sort of qualify for a wall in that there's a requirement for all of the people in the city to contribute, whereas others don't qualify, and therefore they don't get a wall because nobody needs to contribute to it. Whereas the rabbis say no, all cities are entitled to a wall for protection, and therefore all of the residents must contribute to it, and nobody can say that they don't want to participate, because it could happen that enemies come, as we've learned this year, that anything can happen. When they collect for the walls, so do they collect based on how many people are in the house? So meaning, if you have a person who lives by themselves, are they paying the same amount as 5 people who are living together? Or do the 5 people pay 5 times as much? Or alternatively, maybe it's based on how much you can afford, right? Somebody who can afford to pay more pays more. Somebody who can afford to pay less pays less. Amalei, so Rabbi Yochanan responds, Lefi Momin Govin, it's based on how much you can afford. Ve'elazar b'ni, and my son Elazar, meaning it wasn't actually a son, but my son, Elazar, my son. Kivaba masmeros, hammer nails into this halacha, kilu, this is the halacha, and stick with it. Maybe because people could put up a fight, maybe the people with more money don't want to have to pay more, but no, stick to this, and you pay based on how much you can afford to pay. Those who say, Rabbi Elazar asked Rabbi Yochanan, do they collect based on how close you are to the wall? The closer you are to the wall, the more critical the wall is for you, for your security. So maybe you should pay more. Or maybe it's based on how much you can afford. Says Yochanan that it's based on how close you are to the wall, and Elazar, my son, hammer nails into this halacha. Rabbi Yehuda Nisiya Rome Deshura Ad Rabbanon. So Rabbi Yehuda Nisiya required the rabbis to contribute to the wall of the city. Rish Lakish said, Rabbanan lo tzriche nitirusa. The rabbis don't require this kind of protection, don't require a wall to protect them. We saw this in Bava Basra as well. The pasuk says, Esperem, not the pasuk was not in Bava Basra, but the concept was. We're going to see a little later the actual Gemara from Bava Basra. The pasuk says, Esperem mechol yirbun. I will count them, they will be more than the sand. Esperem liman. Who are we counting? Who's going to be more than the sand? If we're saying for the righteous, the nefishe mechala, what is the righteous? Are they more than the sand? It says about the entirety of the nation of Israel that we are going to be like the sand on the shores of the sea. Tzadikim, but the righteous, which are only a fraction of the general population, they're the special ones. They're the Yechidei Segula. Atzma Mechol Yerbun. How could if all of Am Yisrael is like the sand, how could a small subset of Am Yisrael be more than the sand? Ella, rather, Achikam, this is what it's saying. Esprem l'maiseyim shel tzadikim. I will count the deeds, the good deeds of the righteous, Mechol Yerbun, and they are more than the sand. V'kal v'chomer, and we make the following kal v'chomer. Umachol shemuat megin al ayom. If we're saying the sand, which is less than the deeds of the righteous, and yet the sand protects from the sea, right, so that the sea doesn't overflow. My same shel tzadikim, so the good deeds of the tzadikim shemerubim, which are more than the sand, lo kol shekain shemiginim aleim, certainly then those good deeds should be able to protect them. Ki also the kame de Reb Yechanan, when Rish Lakish came to Reb Yechanan, Amar Reb Yechanan says, "My time lo tema le meha." How come you did not use the following verse? Ani choma v'shodai kamigdalos. I am a wall, and my breasts are like fortresses. Fortresses? Towers? Ani choma zotora. I am a wall. I guess maybe like a protection wall. Zotora, this is the holy Torah. V'shodai kamigdalos, and my breasts are like towers. Elu talmidei chacham. These are the talmidei chachamim, and I guess the talmidei chacham, are protective like walls and towers. Rish Lakish Rava, but Rish Lakish learned that verse like Rava teaches. Ani chomaz o knesset Yisrael. I am a wall. That is the congregation of Israel. V'shodai kamigdalos. My breasts are like towers. Elu bate knesios uvate midrashos. These are the synagogues and the study halls. Rav Nachman bar Rav Chizde Romecharga ad Rabbanan. Rav Nachman bar Rav Chizde, he required the rabbis to pay a head tax. Now, I think that this was a head tax that was, I think, required by whoever was in charge of the Jews at the time. What is just checking the Kute Rashi over here? What does he say? Kaga Kesef Gulgato Shayu Kol Yehudim Kol Echad Nosin Kesef Gulgato LaMelech. All the Jews would have to give some kind of a head tax to the king. Okay, I guess this was like a tradition. It goes back a long time. It's interesting, the Gemara. When was the Gemara edited? Like 400s, I think. It's very interesting. The Gemara. We're learning the Gemara. The Gemara was edited before many things. Anyways, yeah. Yeah, I'm just saying that. Yeah, it's interesting. Like Dimi, when you think of it, right? Because like this is something that you always think of like Dimis, right? Like Dimi was like when the Jews. I'm totally not a Jewish historian or whatever, but wasn't like Dimi was like the second class like status of like Jews in like Islamic world or whatever, and they had to pay like certain taxes and stuff. The interesting thing is that the Gemara is from before Islam, right? Wasn't Islam only in the 7th century? Which means the Gemara is from before Islam, and even then there was like this Jew tax that like the Jews had to pay. So I guess this like was like a long tradition. I don't know. I'm probably getting out of my okay, whatever. Anyways, oh gosh, I hope I just didn't say anything silly. Anyways, fine. Where am I? Oh gosh. Rav Nachman bar Rav Chizda Rama Karga Rabbanon. Anyways, Rav Nachman bar Rav Chizda required the rabbis to pay this like Jew tax. So Amalei Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak. So Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak says to so Amalei Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak. So Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak says to Rav Nachman bar Rav Chizda, Avata doraisa va denevia va dichsuve. You have violated the Dorais. You've just violated Torah, a verse in the Torah and in the prophets and in the writings. You violated a verse in the Torah. The pasuk says, "Af chovev amim kol kedosha biyadecha." That Moshe Rabbeinu says in Vizos Habrocha. Let me. Okay, so Avchovev Amim Kol Kadosh B'Yadecha. Amar Moshe L'Fnei Hakadosh Baruch Hu. Moshe Rabbeinu says to the Eibishter, Ribono Shel Olam, the Master of the world, Afilu b'shah she'atem mechabev Amim. Even when you are showing favor towards other nations, Kol Kadosh of you B'Yadecha, but still keep your holy ones close. Right. The Talmidei Chachamim should be in your hand, and I guess somehow that ensures that they shouldn't have to pay this tax. And they are sitting by your feet. Tani Rav Yosef taught Elu Talmidei Chachamim. These are the Torah scholars Shemchatzim Ragleim Meir Le'ir Medina Lemdina, that they trudge by foot from city to city, from country to country, Lilmod Torah, to study the holy Torah. Yisa Midabrosecha Lisa Velitein B'Diburosav Shel Makim, in order to discuss the Torah, basically. And then VA on the prophets, the Chsiv says, Gam ki yitnu bagoyim ato akabtzem v'yochelu ma'at mimasa melech v'sorim v'ama'ulan says ula posuk zeh b'loshan Aramis nemer. That this verse you have to explain as though it was Aramaic, meaning that when it says Gam ki yitnu, it's itanu kulu. So if all of them are like shanu, right, shana, to learn. If all the Yidden are studying the Holy Torah, ato akabtzim, then now I will gather them together and gather the ingathering of the exiles. Ve'im me'at me'em, and if only a few of the Yidden are learning Torah, well yachelu mimasa melech v'sorim, well at least they will not have to deal with the Jew tax. Ad the ksuve, and on the writings. The pasuk says in Ezra, Min Nida, Darius, I think, says, Min Nida v'lo v'halach lo shalit nimima alehom. Do not require them the nido, balo, and halach. But Rav Yehuda min nida, I think. Zo manas hamelach. That's, I don't know, some tax that everybody pays to the king. Below zo kesef gulgalta, and below, I guess, is the head tax. Ve'aloch zo arnona. This is some kind of tax that would come from your crops and your animals and stuff. Rav Papa Rama karye chadata ayasmi. Rav Papa required orphans to contribute to digging new wells because they also need to benefit from those wells. Amalei Rav Shisha brei Davidi le Rav Papa. Says if Shisha B'David Papa Vidilma Lo Mitzvah. But what if you don't find any water? So how could you collect from orphans? Right, we're particularly sensitive when it comes to protecting the assets of orphans. So let's say you collect from the orphans and you don't find any water. So Amalei Mishkol Shakilnu Minayu says, Papa, look, we're going to take the money from them because they also require water. Midvil, so if we find water, we find water. Givaldik Vilo, and if we don't find water, so Ma'adaina Lo Nialayu, so we'll return their money to them. Everybody needs to contribute to building the gates of the cities, even from the orphans. But the rabbis, on the other hand, do not require the protection of the gates. Everybody needs to contribute to digging wells. Even the rabbis need to contribute. And this is what we saw. We saw this in Bava Metzia. And this is so long as the people of the town are not digging the wells themselves. But if they're all going out together to dig the wells together, the rabbis are not going to be required to go out and start digging with the rest of the people. Rebbe Pasach Otzaros B'Shnei Batzoros. Rebbe, during years of famine, so he would open up the he would distribute tzedakah. Omar, he said, "Yikansu b'alei mikra, b'alei mishnah, b'alei gemara." He says, that the learned people should come and collect. Right, so b'alei mikra, people who study Tanakh; b'alei mishnah, people who study Mishnayos; b'alei gemara, learn gemara; b'alei halacha, learn halachas; b'alei agadato. Aval ami haaretz, but ami haaretz al yikansu, don't come and ask for support. Dachak Reb Yonasan ben Amram v'nichnos. Reb Yonasan ben Amram came to request support, and I guess he must have dressed up or something, so Rebbe didn't recognize him. Amrlo, Rebbe says to Amrlo, so Reb Yonasan ben Amram says, Rebbe Parnaseni, please help me, give me food. I don't have anything. Amrlo b'ni koris. So Rebbe says, my son, have you studied Tanakh? Amrlo lav. And Rabbi Yonasan ben Amram says, no. Shonis, have you learned Mishnayos? Amrlo lav. Rabbi Yonasan ben Amram says, no. Imkein b'amei afarnesech. He says, well, then I can't help you. Amrlo parneseni kakele v'cha oriv. Well, at least, give me some food, like the Eibishter, make sure that that there is food for a dog and for a raven. At least provide me, a human being, with some food. Parna says, so Rebbe says, fine, and he gave him some food. But after Rabbi Yonasan ben Amram left, and again, Rebbe didn't recognize that it was Rabbi Yonasan ben Amram, but he felt bad. He says, I feel bad that I gave my bread, that I gave my food that I had available to an Amo Aretz. The phone of Reb Shimon bar Rebbe, Rebbe's son Reb Shimon says to Rebbe, Shema Yonasan ben Amram tamidchahu. Maybe this person was your student, Reb Yonasan ben Amram. She'einu rotza lehanus mikvot Torah miyamav, that he doesn't want to benefit, to cash in on the honor of the Torah that he has studied. Right? He didn't want that he should be able to get sustenance during a famine in exchange for the fact that he studies Torah. He didn't want anything to do with that. He studies Torah. If he needs sustenance, he wants to get sustenance, on some other cheshbon, not on the cheshbon of the Torah that he's learned. Bodku va'ashkach, so they checked, and it turned out that Ataka was Yonasan ben Amram. Omer Rebbe said, you can't a call. And Rebbe said, okay, fine, everybody can come in and get sustenance, because he was concerned that maybe others were not coming to get food during the famine, because they didn't want to have to cash in on the merits of their Torah study. So Rebbe said, okay, anybody can come and get support. And maybe you're wondering, what does Rebbe have against Am Haaretz? Why was he being so stingy? Why was he only supporting Torah scholars? Why can't he support anybody? So Rebbe the time this is taka very interesting, feels like very controversial, but very, very interesting. Rebbe the time, Rebbe's according to his reasoning, the Amar Rebbe, that Rebbe says, "Ein poranus bala olam el b'shvil ami haaretz," that troubles come to the world only because of the Amei Aretz. Therefore, Rebbe had no interest in supporting the Amei Aretz because the Amei Aretz don't do any good. They only create headaches. So he had no interest in supporting the people who bring headaches to the world. Kahu Dmei Klila, for example, there was once a scenario where the king decided that he wanted a new crown. How's he going to pay for a new crown? Ask the people to pay for it. So he made a tax. Right? There was a tax that Deshadu at Tiveria. And the decision was that the people of Tiberia need to pay this crown tax so that the king can get a new crown. Okay. So also the Kame de Rebbe, so the people of Tiberia came to Rebbe. And they said to Rebbe, Leizvu Rabbanon Baidon. No, maybe the rabbis can contribute as well to this tax. Amar Lahu Lo. Rebbe says no, we are not going to contribute to this tax for the king to get a crown. Amrulay, they said to Rebbe, Arokinan. Well, if you are not going to contribute to this, then we're not going to stick around. Like, why should we have to pick up the slack for you? That's it. We're going to leave. We don't want to pay the tax if everybody's not paying the tax. That's it. We're just going to move. We're going to leave, and you'll be stuck with the tax. So Amar Lu Aroku. Rebbe says, see what I care. If you want to leave, leave. Arku, Palgeon. So half of them left and moved some other place. And guess what happened? Dalyua Palga. The king cut the tax in half. Half the people left. I guess they were Amei Aretz. They left. All of a sudden, half the people are gone. All of a sudden, the tax was slashed in half. Asuhanu Palga. Kami to Rebbe, and then the remaining half of the people came to Rebbe, and they made the same argument. Amrulay, they said to him, Leizvu Rabbanon, Baidon, let the rabbis contribute to this tax that has now been slashed in half, together with everybody else. Amrulu Lo. And Rebbe says, no, we are not going to contribute. Arokinon, they said, okay, well, we're all then going to leave town, and you're going to be stuck paying it. Aroku. So Rebbe says, okay, leave town. Arku. So they left town. Arku Kula, everybody left town. Pash Au Koves, the only person left there was one launderer who was an Amaretz. He was left. Shadu Akobes. Okay, so the king required, right, or I guess the collectors required, that the launderer was going to have to pay it all himself. Arakoves. So the launderer left town. Paka Klila, and guess what happened? They didn't come to Rebbe, they didn't come to the rabbis and say, okay, rabbis, y'all have to pay this tax. No, instead they just canceled the tax. Omar Rebbe, so Rebbe says, so you see, Bichlal, the only reason why we had to pay this tax was because of the Amei Aretz. Half the Amei Aretz people left, the tax was cut in half. The rest of the Amei Aretz left, the tax was canceled altogether. So, Bichlal, the fact that in the first place there was a tax was only because of the Amei Aretz. Why should we have to contribute? If the Amei Aretz people leave, then there won't be any tax. So it's not on account of us, it's on account of them. Why should we have to contribute? Wow. Oh my gosh, now that opens a can of worms. Wow. So the Mishnah had said, how long does a person stay in a city for him to be considered part of the city that he has to contribute to, like the walls and things? So we said 12 months. But we have a contradiction. If you have a caravan that's being led by donkeys or by camels, now there's that goes from one place to another place. There's going to be a Gemara in Sanhedrin. Sanhedrin is the next Masechta that we're learning, but this is going to be in a long time because it looks like it's on Daf Kuf Yud Beis of Masechta Sanhedrin. So we have about 300 daf until then. Yeah? Because we're still like kind of at the beginning of BavaBasra. BavaBasra is 176, and this is on Daf Kuf Yud Beis. So 176, 207. Yeah, it's like almost 300 pages from now, and it's only in the next Masechta. Okay. Anyways, it's talking about Ir Anidachas, and Ir Anidachas is a city where we're going to learn about Ataka Masechta Sanhedrin. But I don't remember all the details, but basically they're doing avodah zarah, and we got to like destroy them all. So if you have this caravan that sleeps over in this city, and they are convinced to do avodah zarah with the rest of this city that turns out to be an ir nidachas. So in ir nidachas, you have to you burn everything, and you I think you plop off everybody's head, I think, with swords, and you burn all the stuff. Now, normally, if you worship avodah zarah, so it's a chiyuv skila. But ir nidachas is head plopping. So v'utchaymoin hein beskila. So this caravan will get skila because they're not they're not part of the city, right? They're just visiting overnight. So they're just one-off avodah zarah people. So they get stoned. Umamonon palat, and their money can be left alone because it's halacha of ir nidachas that everything needs to be destroyed. But these people aren't part of the ir nidachas because they just got there. V'im nishtu usham shloshim yom. But if they stay for 30 days, well, then they're considered like the rest of the city. Hein b'sayif umamonon avad. Well, we plop off their heads along with everybody else's, and we have to destroy their property as well. So it seems that 30 days seems to be enough to be considered part of a city. Amarava says, Rava Lokash, it's no problem. Livnei mata or liyisuve mata. Depends. Livnei mata, to be considered like a person of the city, which is what our mission is talking about, it's 12 months. To be considered yisuve mata, dwelling, sitting in the city, then that's only 30 days. Because the Tanya is willing to brisa amudur anoa me ansheir, that if a person says that he's not going to get any benefit from Anshe Ha'ir, from the people of the city, that's talking about somebody who's been there for 12 months. Also where you can't get benefit from anybody who's been in the city for 12 months. Pachus mikan, but somebody who's been in the city for less than 12 months, mutter, then you could get benefit from Yoshvei Ha'ir. But if he says, I don't want to get anybody who's been sitting in the city, well, then it's if they've been there for 30 days, then you can't get benefit. But less than 30 days, you can get benefit from this person. So, if the person's been there for less than 30 days. So we see that there's a difference between Anshe Ir versus Yoshvei Ir. Yoshvei Ir is 30 days, Anshe Ir is 12 months. So our Mishnah, which says 12 months for Anshe Ir. Ulechol milei boinon yud beis chodesh. But 1 second, we just made kind of like a binary kind of distinction, right? If you say Yoshvei Ir, that's 30 days. If you say Anshe Ir, that's 12 months. Now, so once already we're talking about Anshe Ir, it's just 12 months for everything. But we learned in the Brisa, Shloshim Yom, that if a person's been living in a place for 30 days, he already needs to contribute to the tamchoy, which we're going to learn about more in a few minutes, which is the daily, it was like basically food, it was like a food kitchen, like a soup kitchen. So once you've been in a city already for 30 days, so you need to contribute to the soup kitchen, right, that food was available for people who need it. If you've been in the city for 3 months, le kupa. So then you have to start contributing to the kupa, which is the financial support that the city provides for people. Shisha lichsus. If you've been in the city for 6 months, you have to contribute funds for I guess a clothing fund that they add. Tisha likvura. Once you've been in the city for 9 months, you have to contribute to the burial fund. Shneim also lefaseh ha'ir, and if you've been in the city for 12 months, then you need to contribute to the boards and things that they would use to reinforce the city. So we see that that it's not just like, once you've been there for 12 months, then that's when things kick in. Some things are 30 days, other things are 3 months, 6 months, 9 months. So that when our Mishnah talks about 12 months, it's talking about for this reinforcements for the city. Everybody needs to contribute to the protection, to these barricades of the city, even Yisomim. Avor Rabbanon lo, but Rabbanon, the rabbis don't need to contribute because we said, right, the Rabbanon lo tzricha nitirusa, because the rabbis don't require protection. Amr Papa says a Papa lishura v'la pasha v'la tarzino. for walls and for, it sounds like some kind of like a kitat konenut, these like people that would be available to protect the, maybe farsha sounds almost like kind of like a police force, that they would ride around on horses and like patrol. And tarzino was like people in charge of like the weaponry, I think. Afilu miyasme, so even the Yisomim have to participate. Rabbanan lo tzricha netirusa, but the rabbis don't require protection, physical protection. Klal demilsa, the general rule is called milsa de isluhu anoya minei afilu miyasme, that anything that will provide benefit to somebody, they need to contribute to that. And even orphans, right? If the orphans are going to get benefit from something, so they have to contribute to it as well. Rabba Rama Tzedakah Ayasme Devei Bar Marian. Rabba required the orphans of the house of Marian to contribute to the tzedakah funds. Omar le Abai says to Rabba, Ve'atani Rav Shmuel Bar Yehuda Ein Poskin Tzedakah Ala Yisom Nafilu Lefidjin Shvuyim. But Abai asked Rabba, but didn't Rav Shmuel Bar Yehuda say that we don't require orphans to contribute to tzedakah, to charity, even if it's such a great thing as pidyon shvuyim? Omar le Anulach Shovinu Ka'avina. Well, so Rabba says yes, but the thing is that the house of Marian is a very wealthy house, and it's a matter of kavod that they should be able to contribute to these things. So that is why in this particular case, Rabba had them contribute as well, even though generally orphans would not contribute. Here they did contribute because they were a chashuv family, and it is honorable for them to, it is in their honor to be able to contribute. Ifra Hurmiz Ime de Shvor Malka. Ifra Hurmiz, who was the mother of Shvor Malka. Shvor Malka was I believe a Persian king who would make Jews pay like the Jew tax. He also was at the very end of Masechta Bava Metzia. Apparently, he was also he knew law very well. So Shadra Arnika the Dinre Lekamid of Yosef. So if Hurmiz sent a pouch of golden dinars to Rav Yosef Amra, and she said, "Lehabi the mitzvah Rabba, that this money that I'm giving to Rav Yosef should be a contribution for a great mitzvah." Rav Yosef become ayin by my mitzvah Rabba, and Rav Yosef was trying to figure out what is a great mitzvah that this money should be contributed toward, donated toward to. So Abaye says to Rav Yosef, "Mitani of Shmuel Bar Yehuda." From the fact that Shmuel Bar Yehuda just said, "Ein poskin tzedakah al yisomim," that we do not require yisomim to contribute to tzedakah, afilu lefidjin shvuyim, even if it's a mitzvah as great as pidyon shvuyim, shmamina pidyon shvuyim mitzvah rabbahi. So we see that pidyon shvuyim, redeeming captives, hostages, is a very, very great mitzvah. Amalei Rava le Rabba Bar Mari. Rava says to Rabba Bar Mari, Minoha milsodam rabbanu the pidyon shvuyim mitzvah rabbi. How do we know that redeeming hostages is a very great mitzvah? Amalei. So Rabba Bar Mari says, the Pasuk says, V'hayu ki yomer elecha, that the Eibishter says to Jeremiah, that if the Yidden say to you, Ono Neitze, that in the exile, where will we go? V'amarta aleim, you will say to them, Koyama Hashem, this is what God said, Asher lamavis, lamavis. Whoever is going to be killed is going to be killed. V'asher lacherev, lacherev. And whoever is going to die is going to die. Whoever is going to be killed by a sword will be killed by a sword. V'asher larav, larav. Whoever will be starved to death will be starved to death. V'asher lashvi, lashevi. And whoever is going to be taken captive will be taken captive. Amar Rabbi Yochanan says, Rabbi Yochanan called and everything in this, everything that is later in the pasuk is more difficult than what preceded it. Cherev kosher mimaves, being killed by a sword is worse than dying a natural death. Ibaisema krav, ibaisema svara. That could either be learned out from a pasuk or just logically. Ibaisema svara, logically, hai kom minavel v'hai lo kom minavel. A person who dies of natural causes is not I don't know the word, but like meaning if you get your head plopped off with a sword, you get all bloodied and dirty. It's not a very just sort of like dying naturally is a lot cleaner. Whereas getting a head plopped off is like very bloody. Alternatively, I will quote you a pasuk: Yakar be'enei Hashem mavsal chasidav. It is precious to God when his righteous ones die of natural causes. So that seems to be a preferred way of death. Rav kasher mecherev. Famine is worse. Starvation is worse than dying by a sword. Svara. Either I could tell you logically, that somebody who dies of famine is just slowly starving to death and is suffering, whereas a person who quickly gets their head plopped off, it's over very quickly and doesn't suffer. Alternatively, there's a pasuk Tovim Hayu. This is from Eicha, right? Yeah. That those who died by sword were better off than those who died by famine, by starvation. Shevi kosher mikulam. But being a captive, being a hostage is worse than all of those. Dechule isnu bei, because all of the above apply to a hostage. Rashi says, Shvi kulu isnu bei, and unfortunately, as we know all too well from the hostages who have been released, Rashi says, Shehu biyad ha'ovid kochav mazalos, that when you are a hostage, you're at the mercy of your captors. Lasos bo kochefzo, and the captors can do whatever they want with you. Im lamavis, if they want, they can just kill you. Im lacherev, if they want, they could, plop off your head with a sword. Im larav, or they could starve you. Right? You're completely at the mercy of these monsters. Okay. Tanu Rabbanan, the rabbis taught, Kupa shel tzedakah nigbeis b'shnayim mischalekes b'shlosha. The rabbis taught that a charity fund is collected with two people, right? So two people would go together to collect the donations. Mischalekes b'shlosha, but it would be distributed by three people. Nigbeis b'shnayim she'en osem shroros al atzibur pachos mishnayim. It would be collected by two people going to collect it, because any authority is always done with two people. We're going to discuss this authority more in a few minutes. So anything of authority would be done with two people. So therefore, two people would go to collect the contributions. Mischalekes b'shlosha, it would be distributed with three people, kedinei mamanis, like dinei mamanis, as we're going to learn also about at the very beginning of Masechta Sanhedrin. Sanhedrin, I believe, starts with dinei mamanis b'shlosha. I believe so. So because when you're distributing, you have to kind of make cheshbonis, right? How much do we give to this person? How much do we give to that person? This person deserves this. That person deserves that. So therefore, it requires three people, like dinei mamanis. Tamchui nigbeis b'shlosha mischalekes b'shlosha. However, the food kitchen, the soup kitchen, right? The collections of food items that would be collected. I guess that's like, right, the tamchui. It's like the tomchei Shabbos, right? It's like these food collections that people would make. So that would be collected by three people and distributed by three people. Shegibuya v'chaluka shavim, because on the same day they would collect and distribute, right? Because these were a daily, as we're about to see. Yeah, you see, tamchui b'choyim kupa me'ev Shabbos le'ev Shabbos, right? So the tamchui, the soup kitchen, fed people every single day. So these collections and distributions were made every single day. So it would be a pain in the neck if you have to collect with two people and distribute with three people. Where are you going to find that third person from? So rather, it's just all done with three people, and you have the three people for the whole day. Whereas the kupa shel tzedakah was dispersed, disbursed? Is that a thing? Is disburse a word? Dispersed? Dispersed? I don't know. Disbursed? I don't know. Like on the one hand, it doesn't feel like a word. On the other hand, it feels like it is a word. Anyways, the kupa of tzedakah was dispersed once a week, so therefore they could collect with two people, and then once a week they would have to get a third person for the distribution of the money. Tamchoy la'aniyei olam, the soup kitchen would feed anybody. Kupa la'aniyei ha'ir, but the charity collection was specifically for the city where the funds were collected. But the people of the city, who I guess are in charge of these things, it could be kind of fluid, right? They could make the charity into the soup kitchen, and the soup kitchen they can make into the charity. And they could also, if there's like a surplus, they can use that surplus towards whatever other needs are necessary in the community. And the people of the city, I guess the people in charge of these things in the city, are able to make decisions about the measures that should be used in the market and the prices, and how much workers are paid, and can also be involved in implementing the things that need to be implemented. Okay. We said in Osin Shroros ala Tzibur Pachos Mishnaim. So we said that charity is collected with two people, because anything of authority must be done with two people. How do we know this? Amar of Nachman Amar Kra, says of Nachman that the verse says it says by the donations of the Yidden in the desert that Vehem, plural, will take the gold and silver and stuff. So we see it's two people. Shrarus hu delo abdea hemune mehemen. So we say, okay, things of authority, you need two people, but in terms of being believed to sort of manage the funds once they've been collected, one person would be enough for that. Okay. So Meseir le Rav Chanina, this supports Rav Chanina, Dam Rav Chanina, Maise umina Rebbe one time appointed Shnei Achin ala Kupa, two brothers to manage the charity fund, and two brothers would not be considered, like they wouldn't be good for like two witnesses, for example, right? They're considered relatives. They wouldn't be considered like two people in some sense. So and yet they were acceptable for managing the tzedakah fund. Maishur Arusa, what is the authority that is necessary when collecting tzedakah funds? To Amr of Nachman, that if somebody made a pledge and he's not paying, so these people, right, the collectors are empowered to be able to collect a security. And even if it's on Erev Shabbos, when the person might say, wait, I'm busy, leave me alone, no, they have the authority to go in and take a security. But 1 second, but doesn't the verse say, and I will exact retribution from anyone who pressures anybody? It says, even on collectors of charity that are pressuring people. Lokasha, it's no problem. It depends. If it's a wealthy person who can afford it, so then yeah, you could take a security. But if not, then no. Then yeah, you don't want to cause pressure. The Rav Nosson bar Ami v'shakumine abamei zuzei letzedakah, that Rave forced Rav Nosson bar Ami, who was a wealthy person, and he took from Rav Nosson bar Ami 400 zuzes for charity, and that was okay. And the enlightened ones will radiate like the radiation of the firmament. This refers to a judge who judges truthfully. And those who are righteous for the public are like stars for eternity. These are the collectors of tzedakah. Masnisa Tana, it was taught in a brisa. And the enlightened ones will be radiant like the radiation of the firmament. This is a judge who judges properly and those who collect charity. Umatztika rabim ki kochavim lo lemvoed elu melamde tinokis. Oh wow, this is gewaldig. This is mamish gewaldig. Those who righteousify the public, they are like eternal stars. These are those, the melamids, those who teach young pupils. Kigon man, like who? This is amazing. Rav says, Rav Kigon, Rav Shmuel Bar Shilas. Like Rav Shmuel Bar Shilas. That Rav Shmuel Bar Shilas was so committed to his pupils. Listen to this. Rav Shmuel Bar Shilas, Rav found Rav Shmuel Bar Shilas one time that Rav Shmuel Bar Shilas was in his garden. And Rav was a little bit perplexed. What are you doing in your garden? Like you left alone your pupils. You never leave alone your pupils. Amalei, Rav Shmuel Bar Shila says, "Hotleisar shnin dilo chazili." I haven't seen my garden in 13 years. That is how dedicated I am to my pupils. That this is the first time that I am in my garden in 13 years. Cheve, we've been doing Daf Yomi for about 4.5 years. We've been very committed. We haven't missed a day. We've been very committed. Rav Shmuel Bar Shilas for 13 years did not even see his garden. That is how dedicated he was to teaching to teaching Kol Mitzvah Lefah. Okay, fine. So it says Shnin de lo chaziali v'ashtanami da'itoy aloi ilavayu. And even now that I'm in my garden, all I could do is think about my pupils. V'abonon mai. And what about the rabbis? Amar Ravina v'ohavav kitzeis hashemish bigvuroso. And those who love the Eibishter, it is like the sun coming out in its strength. If you have these two gaboy tzedakah who are collecting, they can't separate from one another because one person collecting alone might be considered not trustworthy. But you can have one go to the gate and the other one go to the store, right? So long as people will still see both of them. So if he finds money in the market and he can keep it. But right, that was Elu Mitzias, right? Most Mifuzarin. So he can keep it, but he shouldn't put it in his pocket. Ella Nosan L'Soch Aniki Shosaka. He should put it in the charity, together with the charity, so that nobody should think that he's taking charity and putting it in his own pocket. And when he gets home, he should then can take it out of the charity. You had the money that he found Kayotzibo. Similarly. Right, let's say this charity collector had lent money to somebody else, and he sees that other person in the market, and the other person pays him back. He shouldn't put it in his own private pocket. He should put it with the rest of the charity. When he gets home, then he'll take it, because nobody should think that he's like taking charity money and putting it in his own pocket. If you have these people in charge of the charity, and they don't have poor people to distribute the funds to, and now they have all these copper coins. Now these copper prutas, they can get all like moldy and stuff like that. So you don't want to keep them around for a long time. So what you would do is you would consolidate all the prutas into larger denominations. So have other people change the money for you. Don't change it with your own money. So nobody should have any suspicions. And people in charge of the soup kitchen that the poor people are not eating the food. So sell the surplus food to other people. Don't sell it to yourself, because people might suspect you of giving yourself a better deal. If you are counting money of tzedakah, don't count 2 coins at a time, because people might think that you're like pulling shtick, that you're like you're like counting 2 at a time, but only counting them as like 1 at a time. So rather just count 1 at a time. Initially, Rabbah would not sit on the mats in the synagogue, because because they were purchased with surplus tzedakah money. Kevin the Shama Laha the Tanya, but when he heard that which we learned in the Brisa earlier today, that they could, if there's leftover money, that they could spend it on whatever communal needs are relevant. So then Rabbah realized okay, it's cool to sit on these mats, and he sat on them. Abai said, Hava Ovid Mar Trey Kisei Chad LaAniyei Ta'alma v'Chad LaAniyei Ta'mata. Initially, Rabbah would have two separate pouches, one for money for the poor people of the city, and the other for money for the poor people of outside of the city. Came the Shama Damer Le Shmuel Lavtaflifa Barabdimi Ovid Chad Kisa V'Asni Allah. Once he heard that which Shmuel said to Tachlifa bar Avdimi, that you can just have one pouch and just make a condition that that the people should trust, that your discretion to give it to appropriate people. So Iunami Avde Chad Kisa. So then Rabbah also started making, just having one pouch to collect in Va'asne Allah, and you would say, look, by giving me this money, it is up to my discretion. Vashi Omar says, I don't even need to make a sort of stipulation. Osi adaita didi osi vulamande bo'ino yohivnole. Because anybody who's giving me and entrusting me with their money, they're basically saying that we trust your discretion as well. That was daf ches of Masechta BavaBasra. Some interesting stuff. We started kind of like moving in to some agaritas. There was some very interesting agaritas as well. And anyways, we're now going to continue for the next 2.5 days or so on agaritas, talking about tzedakah. Very, very interesting stuff. Peace out.